Hello, my quilting friends. Leah Day here with episode 26 of the podcast. And today I have a wonderful interview with Amy Johnson. She is a real-life quilting friend of mine who runs not only a website, that's Amy's Free Motion Quilting Adventures, she also runs a store, a physical storefront in Lynchburg, Virginia. So definitely come and check her out, whether it's online or in person. Now for a few updates around the house. I'm outside. If you're seeing the YouTube version, of course, you get to see what I'm doing. If you are listening to the podcast, come and check it out on YouTube so you can actually see what I'm talking about as I talk about it. But I'll try and describe everything. I am outside right now. I have pinned up one of the quilts from my upcoming book, Explore Walking Foot Quilting with Leah Day, and that is pinned up to the back of my house because I don't have a place to photograph it except for outside. So we have hung polystyrene sheeting to the back of the house. I've covered it with a big sheet, and then now I have pinned Marvelous Mosaic to the back of the house, and it's nice and straight and square, and it's ready to photograph. So as I talk through the intro and all that's going on around the house, I'm going to be shooting some photos. So you'll hear the shutter go on and off. So if you hear a little click, that's what that is. So basically, I've been working through this quilt photography for the last week or so and just learning how to do this. And I will be completely honest to say that I don't really know what I'm doing, but I am good at guessing. So that's what I'm up to. To be honest, I kind of struggled with a lot of self-doubt with this for several days and was just feeling like, oh, I'm not good at this, you know, this is going to be terrible. And I took a lot more shots. I just watched as many videos as I had time to watch on YouTube, and I joined some craftsy classes that would be helpful as well. And I also had to reach a point where I was just like, okay, I'm just going to trust myself to do this, and it's not going to be perfect, and I'm sure I'm going to create books that are even better down the road, but this is going to be good enough for right now. And honestly, you know, I've been looking at the photos as they've been coming out, and I've started exploring different softwares to kind of work with that and be able to process the photos. And what I'm seeing is actually pretty good stuff. I mean, it looks good to me. I don't know if it's like technically correct, you know, and there's that, you know, fear, and you might have dealt with this yourself as far as feeling like, oh, well, you know, there's got to be something there's a right way to do it, or there's a wrong way to do it, or something like that. And, you know, this can be something that holds people back in quilting as well. So I was out in the crafty cottage and just kind of, I don't know, feeling bad, and just really beating myself up about the photos and not feeling that they were very good. And I reached this point where I was just like, why can't I just trust that it's gonna be okay, you know? And so I really think that maybe I work in words every 6 months, that I need to change my words halfway through the year. But I really think that trust is the word for me right now, most definitely. And I'm gonna trust that these are good. I got this brand spanking new camera in order to take these photos, so I know at least resolution-wise they're gonna be right. You know, it's a Nikon. What I picked up was a Nikon DSLR. It's the 3400. And what was funny about it is I realized after buying it that I actually spent far more on my iPhone than I ever did on this camera, and I really wish that I'd bought the camera years ago, and you know, and gotten into this so long ago. That would have been so much better, and to have built the skill maybe at the beginning of my business. That would have been such a better time to build the skill. And you know, I was kind of belaboring the point. Josh was like, well, you weren't ready then, you know, and that was a really good point. You know, I wasn't ready to have this knowledge or to understand it. And maybe that was the key, you know, that I just needed more experience. I needed to make more videos. I needed to make more stuff. And then I needed to make this book, and then this book needed to push me into photography. I don't know. But trust has definitely been on my mind, that word. Been working on it, and it's been working on me. And just trying to trust the process and to believe that I can do this and it's going to be okay. And it's not going to look like a terrible, low-quality, self-published book. You know, I want it to look really good. And because of that, I've been taking a lot of time on these shots, and especially the machine shots. I don't know if you've ever really spent a lot of time looking at a typically published quilt book. I have, because I'm a little obsessive compulsive about it. And if you look at a traditionally published book, there's not a lot of shots on the machine. And there's a reason for that, because most quilters, when they write for a traditional publisher, they will write and have all the quilts done, and then they'll go to photography at a professional studio paid for by the publisher, and then everything's done when the quilts are finished. So it's impossible to do those really nice educational shots on the machine. And I mean, this is a gross generalization. This is just what I picked up from looking at traditionally published books, because, hey, big question, why don't they have more shots on a machine? Well, the reason is it's really hard to take those shots. And I've been just learning through trial and error. I tried a lot of shots with the camera just on auto setting. That's another thing. It's kind of intimidating to deal with all the settings on the camera now. I have to actually learn how to use it rather than just point and shoot. But the thing about it is, you know, it's all about learning and growing and figuring it out. So I tried a lot of shots just on the auto setting, just seeing what the camera would do with just nothing special added, just with the camera, how it's designed to be made. And so I tried that, and they came out pretty good. Here are a few of those shots. And some of these shots are from like future things in the quilt along, so you're getting, I guess, kind of a sneak peek. But one thing I noticed in these shots that they were slightly, not necessarily out of focus, but it's like they had a very limited focal point, so only a little bit of the shot was in focus. So I did some reading and I did some research and realized I needed a bigger depth of field. That means bigger space that is in focus. So I started playing around with changing the f-stop and changing the shutter speed and changing the ISO, and then made some really grainy, ugly pictures in the house and got some advice online. And, you know, I've just been kind of trying to find information wherever I can and learn as much as I can. And then ultimately I'm doing the best job that I can with what I've got and with how much time I have. Because really, technically, these shots need to be done, like, right now. A little bit of pressure there, just a little bit. They need to be done right now because my layout artist is already in the layout process. We've gotten the book edited. Janice Brewster from Creative Girlfriends Press, she does the editing, and then Karen Solmetti from SolmettiDesigns.com, she does the layout. And so they've already, you know, they're ready to work, or Janice has already done her job, and then Karen wants to do her job, and she needs photos. And so this weekend has been a big, like, get those photos done, Leah, kind of thing, where I can't fool around with it. I've got to just get it done and accept it wherever it is. And that's okay. And, you know, the fun thing about it is I kind of try some artistic shots, and I'm playing around. A lot of it is just experiment, see what happens if I do that. Let's take this shot with 2 different settings and see which one's better, you know. I don't think there's a manual on quilt photography, at least I haven't been able to find it. So I think all of this is just experimentation and trial and error. Back it up, shoot a picture, try a different setting, back it up, shoot another picture, try a different setting. And this, you know, this also reminds me of the way that I made quilts in the beginning too. I mean, I guess I kind of still make quilts this way, and that is try something new, make a big mess, learn a whole lot of stuff, declare that I will never do it that way again, and then go do it again that exact same way. I like experimenting on a big scale. What can I say? And I guess this is just another one of my experiments. So this has really been all I've been working on, and I sincerely apologize if the blog suffers just a little bit right now. When I get busy like this, I almost feel like, well, I feel like a crazy person. I'll be completely honest, because there's the piece of me that's just like, I just want to obsess about this. I just want to think about this. I don't really want to be trying to write blog posts and chug out stuff right this second. And so it's really hard to kind of compartmentalize and be like, okay, this is needing to go up now and this is needing to come out in several months, and compartmentalize all of that. And sometimes I just kind of give myself the break and say, it's okay to not have stuff coming out right now. But then I always come back to, but you know, I need to be consistent. And I don't like it when the blog goes quiet for a week. That bothers me. And it also makes it look like I'm not taking this seriously, and I really am. So it's a balancing act, and it's tough. Right now, the work that I am doing right now will establish and get me more than a year ahead on videos for the blog and posts and content and stuff, which will feel amazing. But it's a little crazy making in the getting there part, because you have to work and do the stuff for right now, and then you also have to work and do the stuff for in the future. The one thing that is really helping, I wanted to share about this, I have been using Dictation to write my blog posts, and I feel like they're actually getting better. So Dictation is writing by talking. And so I'm using Dragon Naturally Speaking. It's an app on my phone, and it is $14 a month, which is steep. Sorry, but I think that's really expensive for an app. However, it's pretty good. So I can be talking and it can be transcribing what I say. Now, it's not perfect. When I say quilting, it writes quoting, like I'm quoting you, which is not a hard thing to go and fix, but it's kind of still annoying, you know? But it seems to be getting better, or at least I'm slowing down and getting better at the dictation side of it. And the nice thing is I can do this while I'm walking, and I can be more active, and I can be doing other things, not just sitting at a computer desk writing, you know, I can be doing other things. And so that's been a real game changer. And I decided to try dictation after listening to a podcast, one of Joanna Penn's podcasts about dictation. I'll make sure to link that up in the show notes so you can go check it out. I have tried it before, and it was this episode that really finally inspired me. Like, I really need to give this a better try, and I really need to work harder at it to make it work for me. And what I have found is that by dictating my words, I'm much faster because I'm basically just chatting. And so it comes out in a much more fluid way. I have far less of the like sit there and stare at a blank screen while I am trying to think of a clever way of telling you how to piece a Dresden plate. I mean, sometimes this stuff can get boring, and by talking it, I feel like I'm more funny, and I talk and share more because I'm not looking at the blog post so much. I'm just looking at what I feel like sharing. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's how that has felt, and it's been really good. And I've also been writing on a walking treadmill desk. I kind of cobbled it together. I got a really cheap treadmill at Walmart and then installed a shelf above it so that way I could walk and write at the same time. And the main reason for this was, again, you know, I'm concerned about my health. I want to remain a healthy, active person. And most of what I do all day long is sit down. I sit down in front of a machine. I sit down in front of a computer. And it's not that that was necessarily catching up with me, because I still felt like I was a pretty healthy person. It's that I could see how little I was getting outside. And that was starting to worry me. And, you know, not necessarily outside, but active. You know, like how many times does my heart rate really go above the normal rate? So, you know, so these different things, trying dictation and trying walking and writing at the same time, that might sound a little crazy, you know, as far as just trying to multitask too much. But it's really worked for me. And anything that helps me go faster and be healthier, I like, you know. And so I guess kind of shooting these photos outside is also a healthier thing because I'm getting some sunshine and I am forcing myself to be outside with the bugs and the chickens and the everything that comes along with it. So it's all been good. It's been definitely a transition process, but I am trusting the process. I think that's the key. So I hope that you enjoyed hearing and seeing this introduction. Now, if you are listening on iTunes and you have not seen this intro, you are on iTunes, and there is a possibility that you could help me out, and that would be to like the podcast, give it a review, and subscribe. So that way you don't miss out on the next podcast episode that will be coming out in 2 weeks. If you are on YouTube and you're watching, then of course you can also subscribe on YouTube. Leave me a comment in the comment section below if you have tips for quilt photography. If you see how I am shooting out here and you have some suggestions for settings that I should try, anything like that, or if I'm doing it all wrong, just be nice when you tell me about it. Okay, so the sponsor for the show this week is April Wells. We have our first sponsor for our podcast, which is very exciting. So here is a little introduction and ad with April.
Hi, this is April Wells with So Darn Cute Quilting, and I'm a long arm quilter, and I love doing mid-custom quilting. I like to make your piecing shine with my long arm quilting skills. So if you'd like to take a look at some of my long arm quilting, you can check me out at So Darn Cute Quilting at .blogspot.com. Again, So Darn Cute Quilting.blogspot.com. And you can also check me out on Facebook, Pinterest, and Instagram at So Darn Cute Quilting.
So that's it for the intro. I hope you enjoyed it. Now on for the interview with Amy Johnson. Hello, my quilting friends. Leah Day here with episode 25 of the podcast. And today I'm joined with an awesome quilting friend, Amy Johnson from Amy's Quilting Adventures. Welcome to the show, Amy.
Thanks for having me, Leah.
Now for a little introduction, Amy Johnson is by nature a shy person, but comes alive when talking about quilting, sewing, and creativity. She is best known for her free motion quilting adventures, especially using rulers to quilt on a home machine. And she's taught 2 classes on Craftsy, teaching that technique. Now, last year, she and her husband added a brick and mortar creative sewing center to the mix as machine dealers for Janome, providing machines, supplies, fabric, education, and inspiration to the Lynchburg, Virginia area. So that's what we're going to talk about today, balancing a physical store with an online store. And that sounds really challenging. So how has it gone so far?
Well, first of all, I laugh when you say balance, because there is no balance. And I think life is a lot like that, too. It's like a teeter-totter. You know, if you're lucky, you're in the center kind of wiggling back and forth, but a lot of times we're just going from one end to the other. And it's just a constant, ride. It's exciting, it's frustrating, it's wonderful, and it's something I'm really thankful to have the opportunity to do.
Absolutely. So tell me about working with your husband. What is his role in the business, and what is your role in the business?
Okay. Well, first let me tell you a little bit about our shop. We are a machine shop. A lot of people kind of think, well, we have a quilt shop, and we're definitely not a quilt shop. We are doing row by row this year, which a lot of the quilt shops do, and I can see when people are traveling and they come in expecting a quilt shop, and I kind of let them know we're primarily focused on machines in classes, but we do have fabric and things, and we're really enjoying that. But his main role is for service and repair of sewing machines. And we are Janome dealers, so that's a big part of it. But, they're pretty reliable machines. What he ends up doing a lot of is working on machines where they don't have a dealer for that brand anymore. So we see a lot of antique machines. We see a lot of touch and sew singers. These things that they just don't have a place for them. And, sometimes we have to read a customer and know whether they really should get the machine fixed or whether it's time to, finally move up to a modern machine. And so he does all that. Of course, he also does all my shipping and packing for our online business, and that keeps him pretty busy as well. I fire him regularly, and thankfully, he doesn't take me seriously, and he's always here. So we make a really good team together. We've worked together in other projects before, and so far it's working out.
Excellent. And so you're mostly, you're still blogging and doing everything you do for your online business, and then you're also running the front of the store, too.
Yep, that's correct. Although if you ask a lot of my avid blog readers whether I'm blogging, they'll probably tell you she's not blogging that much. And we are trying to improve that. We just moved our whole entire store. So originally it was in the original business building, which was behind the owner's house. And so it was a little hard for people to find. And it still had some 1980s wallpaper going on in it. So we had some of that country blue and mauve theme going on, which I was working to kind of hide. And an opportunity came to move the shop, and we jumped on it. And one of the big benefits of that is we now have a separate classroom. So the previous place, everything was pretty much on the floor. So you can imagine trying to sew on projects between customers just was not happening very well. So now I have a place I can hide, and a lot of the time my husband can keep on top of the machine repair enough to come out to the front of the store and cover for me. And we're hoping with this new location we'll be busy enough to hire in some people to finally start helping us and waiting on customers and letting me do that online stuff that I really need to do, because it is a small shop, and having that online business and the Craftsy class really helps support the shop as well.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So, that's where you started. You started with an online quilt shop. So you want to tell me that story? Just, how did you get started? Did you start the videos first and then start the shop, or did you start the shop first and then start making videos?
I really started the online shop just to help supply my Craftsy classes. I originally was just showing what I was doing. It was my quilting adventures. I was quilting something, I was taking pictures and posting online and going, hey, look what I did. And I discovered ruler work, just found this foot that I could use ruler work with on a regular sewing machine, and started showing that off, and the interest was just amazing. And so I got the opportunity to do my Craftsy class, and at that time, a lot of people didn't know where to get the rulers. If they found a company that made rulers, they only sold their brand. And I'm not horribly brand loyal. I just like to use what I like to use. And if it's not a great product, I'm not going to promote it. And so I wanted to have a shop where you could take a pick of a whole bunch of different types of rulers, the different tools I use. And that's what the online shop was all about.
Excellent. That's exactly how I built my shop. Just here are the tools that I'm using that you're going to see in the videos. And I think that's a really great way of doing it, because then it's so easy to just say, hey, I like this. I use this every day. You can see it in multiple videos, and I think that always works out great. So you were blogging and making videos for years then, before you ever sold a single product. How did that work?
Well, it definitely gave me a creative outlet. It helped me feel connected to people that, I maybe wasn't in my circle, locally. And so I really enjoyed that part of it. But yeah, it didn't make money. Maybe I made a little bit of pocket change from,
affiliate
YouTube,
links.
Not YouTube ads, the ads they put on the YouTube videos and that kind of thing. I never got heavy into selling advertising or anything like that, but it was just fun. And because it was fun, it made it more doable. If I was trying to really build this big blog up with lots of readers and lots of ads, maybe my videos would have had to have been more polished, and maybe I wouldn't have done it. I remember when Craftsy contacted me about my first class. I said, well, I'm not sure that I need to be in a video where you show my face. All my videos to that point had just been my hands right around the needle of my machine, and I didn't want to arrive in Denver and go, oh, maybe she needs to be on a radio program instead. Oh. And that was just really ridiculous. But one of the fellows there at the Craftsy studio said, they don't care what you look like, they just want to learn from you. And I told him that's not a line to use on a girl. But it's worked out well. I'm just amazed at the ride. It's not necessarily something I wanted to do as far as, leaving my home and having the store, because it's a huge time commitment and we have 3 kids. But it was the opportunity put in front of me. There are things that we think our life is going to be, and when change comes along, and for us that was cancer. My husband had a very rare form of cancer when my youngest child was a baby, and that was a really tough time for us, and it changed everything. And I'd love to wave a magic wand and have it go back to the way it used to be. But here we are working together, making a living. We have all 3 kids. Well, I take that back. We have 2 children in the store right now with us for the summer. My youngest is out with my mom, but he'll be back here. And it's really an amazing opportunity.
Absolutely. And I think that it'll be great for your kids. You know, growing up in the shop, they're going to learn about money. They're going to learn about sales. They're going to get so many skills before they, even become adults. That's great. I absolutely believe put those kids to work. So you created, so you did the videos. I'm kind of like putting it all together because I've known you online for years. And it's so funny because I totally thought that you had an online shop a lot sooner than your crafty classes, but I realized now you were just making all these videos and I was seeing all these videos, and that's how I knew you. So we shared a little challenge last fall, and that's how we really got to know each other, the Tunic challenge. And that was lots of fun, and it gave, I don't know about you, but it pushed me to make the shirt and a blog every week.
Well, you didn't have to do a full bust adjustment in order to make your tunic, so it was fun for you.
That is very true.
But it did give me a good push. And, not all of our customers here in the store are quilters. So being able to focus on the garment side of things was a great thing for me as well.
Absolutely. And do you teach sewing classes, like sewing a garment classes, or do you mostly teach quilting classes?
Right now, I have not gotten into garments too much, but I've been doing a lot of beginner sewing classes, and there's a big interest in doing garments. So I think we will start getting into that. I almost feel like my garment sewers that are coming into the shop are at that beginner level. And so we're kind of working our way up as we create our new class schedules.
Perfect. And getting into sewing garments, are you going to carry different fabrics like knits in order to support that?
Yes. Right now we're a dealer for Art Gallery fabrics, and we have some of their lightweight denims as well as their cotton voile, which is fabulous stuff. It's gorgeous. And they also have knits and now rayon. So I think the knits is the next thing we'll be bringing in. It's very difficult bringing in garment fabrics when you're a tiny shop, though, because you need that selection, and yet you can only devote so much floor space to that niche product. But it's something we definitely want to do.
Yeah, and tell me about selling fabric, because this has been something that we've struggled with personally. Trying to sell fabric online seems really hard because, there's that, you want to touch and feel it. You want to make sure that print's the right size, all that kind of stuff. So do you find that just being in a physical quilt shop, you're not going to put it online, or are you trying to put it both places and sell both places?
Well, I think we're still kind of deciding on that. I have put a couple of fabric bundles on the online shop. We have started adding thread, and that has gone well for us. In fact, the biggest holdup for us putting product that's in the shop online is the actual sitting down and putting it on the website. That takes a lot of time, and you know about that. And right now, with just the 2 of us, it's not something we've been able to do yet.
Job for your kids.
Well, the oldest is 12. So, we gotta wait for them to get a little older, I think, for some of that. But I did have the oldest start entering some email addresses for me the other day. A lot of our ladies here in the shop are not very internet savvy, so we just have them write it down, and he was entering that because that takes time. So, navigating the online and the bricks and mortar for a fabric shop or a quilt shop, that's something that's really in flux right now, and I'm not the only one trying to figure that out.
Yeah, and talk about that a little bit. I've heard this from multiple sources that quilt shops and sewing shops, dealers like yourself, are going through kind of a crucible right now. So what's your perspective on that?
Well, first of all, you and I are online. We're checking out all the social media, but the quilt world some people get it, some people don't, especially within shops, shop owners. They talk about the average age of a quilter is still up in the 60s. I would say that the average age of a quilt shop owner is probably higher than that. So, the internet's here to stay. And it's changing a lot of things. And if you can't adapt and figure out where it's going next, and even the most savvy of us might think it's going this direction and find out it's not going in that direction. So it's a tricky thing. I know bricks and mortar stores feel like people are showrooming their shops. They're coming in for that experience, feeling the fabric, checking out the bolt ends to see what the name of the fabric is, and then going home and buying it online. Now, I don't see a lot of that happening here, but this is Lynchburg, Virginia. I think if we were in a really large metropolitan area, we might see more of that. Also, just, your local quilt shops, you come in, you ask questions, they give you answers, and maybe it's not a class, it's not a paid class, but, they're giving you a lot of information, and then you may leave and go buy online. And I love getting a good deal online. I mean, there's plenty of things I think we all order online because it's cheaper, but if we want to still have a place to go and get that fabric, we have to support the shops. On the other hand, if the shops aren't giving the customers what they want, they're not going to support those stores. So it's really tricky. For me, having that online presence and the store really helps support the store because it's bringing in that online business. It's bringing in some people that have come here, from other areas because they want to go to Amy's shop, which is really awesome. Kind of shocked and amazed a little bit, but it's something we need to do. I think we've got to integrate the online and the bricks and mortar into this kind of holistic entity, not just keep them at odds with each other.
Exactly. And I think that the way you've done it is going to become a model. And you're not the only one. I've seen it. Actually, Stephanie Sebbing, Quilt Addicts Anonymous, she went from online 100% and opened what was essentially a studio at first, and then now has turned that into a quilt shop. I think Ebony Love has also done this too, an online store, and then opening a physical storefront too. And I think maybe that's the new model where if you can build a successful online place, then that will help support you and keep you in business. The thing that kind of stops me in my tracks is just the expense. Like, do you mind talking about that? I mean, you're a Janome dealer, so you've got to have some serious cash to buy all these machines and keep it on, out and stocked and ready to go. So how does that work?
It's a constant struggle. I'll tell you, if you look at this from a business standpoint, if we went to our Small Business Administration and said, here's our assets, this is what we want to do, they would have thrown us out. In fact, we took a small business class with our local business development center, and they want you to make a business plan. And while we had some loosely done, business plan things, we never finished our business plan to show them. They would have laughed at us. There's a great deal of faith, a great deal of good timing with the Crassy classes and how well that first one has done. That first one's just blown me away. The number of people that, want to take up this technique and do it. We're working on a shoestring budget, and it's a little scary at times. It's a lot scary at times.
Yeah.
But we're making it work. And it seems like just when I'm starting to think, oh, this is not going to work, things just fall into place. And like I said, we're really grateful about that. But yes, anyone, I know if you are a shop owner or a shop worker, you'll hear people come and go, oh, I want to open a quilt shop one day. And I just think to myself, do you really understand how much money that would take? Because I would never encourage someone who is in the same financial position we were to do this. I mean, it's just crazy. I know of quilt shop owners who aren't taking home an income from their shop. They're dependent on a husband or a retirement package or something in order to support themselves. And we've had to make, the money we live on with our kids and everything from the shop. We've had no option. And, we don't live a fancy life at all. But it is challenging. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a thing I think a lot of people don't maybe realize. They walk into a shop and they see the machines. They might not understand, like, you have to pay for those machines to be there. It's not there like on spec, like, oh, you'll pay for it when it sells. I mean, you have to pay for it to get it on the shelf. And that's an enormous investment. And, that's the thing that I think I come back to having an online shop and keeping it small. Every once in a while, somebody would ask me, why don't you carry all 300 colors of Isacord thread? And it's like, do you have any idea how much that would cost, let alone the amount of space it would take up? Like, I have no desire to carry that much thread. A quilt shop, a physical store can. When you're working out of your basement or out of your house, you can't do that. And when you started your online shop, were you working out of your home or did you already have the store?
No, we were working out of our home. So we had a closet in our dining room, and that's where we put our stuff. Now, of course, we were lucky in that quilting rulers don't take a lot of space, and they stack well. So if we had been doing something more bulky, it would have been crazy. But, we started out of our house, and we moved it around several times, just trying to find the right spot, and it was really nice to have it come out of the house and go somewhere. And struggled for a while all last year trying to figure out what to do with, where I sew, because I'd come home from the shop, putting in some long hours. I'd come in 1 or 2 o'clock at night. Recently, I came home. I left the shop at 3, which was insane, and came back to the shop in the morning. I didn't have time to sew at home. I didn't want to sew at home. And so now being in a place where we have a studio for me has worked out well. But yeah, it takes up a lot of room.
Yeah, definitely. And, how do you drive traffic? So in the traditional ways of driving traffic, we think online, getting people to your website, but then there would also be driving traffic into your shop. So how do you keep it busy?
Well, sometimes it's not busy. First of all, this shop has been in existence for nearly 30 years. No, I take that back, right at 30 years. The original owner, when we bought the store, this was his retirement job. And when we bought the store, he was 89 years old. So he already had an established clientele. This would not have worked if we were starting from scratch. So the clientele has changed a little bit now that we're owning it. Not that they're not happy with us, but he was very happy keeping some old machines going that they just
needed to be retired.
Yeah, they needed to be retired. I mean, there's the nostalgia of sewing on grandma's machine versus the utility of using a newer machine. You don't see the 57 Chevy Classic car, the Model T, out on the road as a commuter car. And so we did, we found some ways to kind of talk to people about how much work they should put through this old machine. A lot of people want to keep the old machines running, but they don't necessarily need to be used, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So that shifted our demographic for the bricks and mortar store a little bit, but I've been very active on Facebook with the shop. Like I said, anyone who's fairly local that had been following my blog is now a customer. Instagram, we've been doing Instagram. I'm still trying to figure that one out as far as for the bricks and mortar. I've got my Instagram account for basically my blog, but I really didn't want to set up a separate one for the shop. So that might not be as clear and helpful as for a business way, but that's what I have to do. Because if I lose my mind doing all this, well,
that's
happens.
It. Yeah, exactly. And, you're talking about the long hours and, and just, it sounds like this is quite a lot of work. So what are you doing to make sure that this is balanced enough that you can keep going with it? I mean, is it sustainable, I guess is my question.
I think we're at the crux of that right now. I've really been struggling with that. The hope is this new location is really good. It's in a busy part of the town. The hope is that the local customers will bring enough traffic in that we can hire some people. Because I can't keep doing it all, and I have really been doing a lot of it. Now my husband's been taking over a lot of the home life for the kids and the cooking and the cleaning, which he's doing a great job. Don't get me wrong, but there's a difference between having a man clean the house and having the woman who has been a stay-at-home mom for years take care of the house. But he does a great job, and like I said, we work well as a team. But something's got to change here soon, or I am going to crash and burn.
Yeah. And that, the only reason I asked that is just simply because, there have been times just blogging and making videos has felt like too much, and I've nearly burned out. And I had to get real with myself and honest with myself. And now when I talk to someone like you and I see you working so hard, and I just love your shop and I love your Instagram and I love following you and stuff, I guess it just makes my heart hurt because I know exactly what that feels like, and I want to make sure you're okay. And you're going to be okay, and you're going to continue to, do awesome stuff and make beautiful quilts, because the worst thing that would happen is for you to crash and burn out and no longer be a quilter. So let's talk a little bit about Craftsy. It sounded like, and I don't know about this for you, but for me, definitely, when I went to Craftsy, that was a huge life-affirming, oh my gosh, I never thought I could do that kind of moment. Was it the same for you?
Yeah. They talk about in creative circles that imposter syndrome. Yeah, I fight that all the time, and I didn't go to Craftsy. Craftsy came to me, which is like this huge ego boost. That day you called me at the shop a couple of months ago, that was a huge ego boost. Just those milestones where it's like, okay, this isn't just a figment of my imagination. But yeah, Patsy Thompson, who's also gotten into doing ruler work after seeing what I was doing, she recommended me to them. She had already done a class with them, and they came, and it was really amazing. Also, my mom is not a quilter. She is not a sewer. She taught me how to use my grandmother's old sewing machine ages ago, and I think she probably forgot. In fact, she's asked me to sew a few things for her before because she doesn't sew. And in fact, she's kind of a blanket person. Why would you quilt if you can go to Walmart and buy a perfectly good comforter?
No.
And she did not, and she's from that generation where you went to school, you went to college, you got a good job, you kept your head down, and you did your thing. And so this entrepreneurial streak that I've always had, even back in middle school and high school ages, she didn't understand that. And when Craftsy flew me out to Denver, then she was like, oh, this is not just her. This is and she has run into people because they recently moved to Colorado, and Crafty's in the news out there occasionally, and there are a lot of quilters that have retired and moved in that Colorado, Arizona area, and every once in a while someone she knows will have heard of me, and she's like, oh. And so it's really changed how she sees what we're doing, which is really wonderful, because to have the support of your family is really important.
Absolutely. That authenticity really helps. And, I completely agree. So what are your plans moving forward? Are you going to do another Craftsy class? Do you have any more plans with that? Are you focused on the online or the physical store?
Well, we're going to keep on that teeter-totter, trying to keep it balancing a little bit for both places. The focus for me right now is to keep the shop running, but to kind of step away from the actual cutting of fabric and answering the phone and being in the studio classroom area more, because that does drive the machine of the online stuff. It drives the Craftsy stuff, and it does bring more people in here. I think the local people are happy to have a known professional quilter to come to for classes. So that's the big focus right now, and just trying to make life a little bit more livable, because it has been crazy. Yep.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, what are you looking forward to most in the next 5 years? Is there anything standing out to you? 5 years down the road, where do you want to be, baby?
Not in the nut house and not in the poorhouse. That's probably as specific as my goals have been lately. I don't know about a craftsy class. I need to do a book. You've been telling me I need to do a book. Krista Watson's been telling me to do a book. You guys both have different opinions on how that book should be done. And I just don't know if I can add anything else to my life right now. I know I need to do it. I don't think Crassy's going to want to do another ruler class with me. So I don't know. I don't know what that aspect of the business has to hold. Maybe I'll have to take a page out of your book and do some of my own classes online. But we'll just see.
Yeah. Hey,
if you planner that you are, I think.
Well, if you're teaching it in person, you can just record yourself teaching and then edit it nicely and put it together. I mean, that works.
I'm a hot mess in person.
Not at all. Like I said, the key word there was editing, sweetie.
Yes.
I'm a hot mess too. It's just clever editing with Josh in the back room, right? Oh, well, thank you so much for joining me. Tell everybody where they can find you online.
Okay, well, the blog, of course, is Amy's Free Motion Quilting Adventures. That'll probably be transitioning to Amy's Quilting Adventures, which is the shop. So that's www.amysquiltingadventures, no apostrophe, .com. The shop here, the bricks and mortar, is So Simple of Lynchburg. So our website is sosimpleoflynchburg.com. I'm on Instagram as Amy's Quilting Adventures. Facebook under both shop names. And here in Lynchburg, Virginia. We're kind of right smack dab in the middle of the state, a little towards the southern end. A lot of history around here if people like to go traveling. I love seeing people in person that I've met online.
Oh, wonderful. Yes, it is on my list to come and visit you one day.
We could do a free motion little
party
read up here and really blow them away.
Absolutely. So thank you again for joining me. I really wish you the best of luck with all of your endeavors.
Oh, thank you for having me, Leah. And I love listening to the podcast. It's like having friends with me when I'm sewing.
Oh, thank you so much. So that's it for this episode. If you'd like to find more episodes of the Hello My Quilting Friends podcast, check it out at leahday.com/podcast. We have a player that will play through all of the episodes shared so far, so you can binge listen for hours on end. Until next time, let's go quilt.